Colleagues, we have formed a quorum and it's already time to get started. Well, since the last meeting, only one paper has been issued by the Secretariat to members, and that's paper number CB 2/1089/1617 items for discussion at the next meeting. Date of next meeting, 22nd of May 2017, Monday, 8:30 to 10:30. The administration has proposed two items for discussion. One, financial arrangement for the Property Management Services Authority, and number two, funding injection to the Elite Athletes Development Fund. Do members agree to that? Yes, Tanya Chen. Well, at the last meeting, you did propose that there should be an early discussion on the monitoring of private amusement or playground lease. So, well, have you taken that up with the administration? Have you resolved that? What? Well, the administration proposes to discuss that at our next meeting in April. All right, thank you. So, do members agree with the proposal by the administration for the two items to be discussed? Well, just one word. Well, I received a written response from the administration, and also is about the monitoring of playgrounds. So, Chairman, I hope that you can include that in the agenda of our panel for future discussion. Well, what's the subject that you raised? Well, I just received a written reply from the administration. So, it's about a case involving a person being killed or hit to or beaten up to death at a wrestling contest. So it's not just about the case per se. We have to look at the rules and regulations regulating such contests and so on. So it's under the ambit or portfolio of the HAB. All right, we'll include that in the list of outstanding items for discussion. Ms. Tanya Chen, well, on item 6, well, the outcome of the public consultation of the proposed amendments to the Chinese temples ordinance. Well, the review was already completed, and so that consultation ended in May 26, 2015. It's been 2 years now, so we should have discussed that earlier. Because for the West Kowloon Palace Museum, all right, well, they did a questionnaire survey, and despite the fact that the consultation only ended on the 8th of March, they managed to complete the report in just a couple of weeks' time. So for the Chinese Temples Ordinance, well, I think we should discuss that as early as possible, given the fact that the public consultation exercise already ended 2 years ago. All right, any further questions? If not, then we will move on. With regard to the public hearing on the Buildings Ordinance, as we have quite a large number of people who would like to attend, so either we extend that to 7 p.m. or we will have to extend that even further if we don't, if we are not able to accommodate everybody. Okay, so item 3. Waterfront promenade adjacent to the Hong Kong Children's Hospital open space. So let's invite the administration team to join us. Well, given the fact that this is a public works program item, so under Rules of Procedure 83A, if any member has any direct or indirect pecuniary interest, please do declare that before you speak, and please also disclose the nature of such interests. We have with us today Mr. Lau Kong-wah, the Bureau Director, Ms. Linda Law, Principal Assistant Secretary from the Bureau, Mrs. Doris Falk, Assistant Director from the LCSD, and also Mrs. Alice Yu, Project Director from the ASD, and also Mr. Chu Po Kwan, Chief Project Manager, ASD, and also Mr. Michael Chiu, Chief Executive Officer from the LCSD. Okay, so Bureau Director, please walk us through the paper. Thank you, Chairman. The first item on the agenda is the waterfront promenade adjacent to the HKCH. As members might recall, well, in a policy address, the Chief Executive said that in the coming 5 years there would be 26 leisure and recreational projects that would be implemented. And for the promenade, adjacent to the Hong Kong Children's Hospital. That's the first one under that proposal, and we already consulted the district council on that, as you can see from the paper and also the layout plan. It's very close to an open space nearby, and we hope that we can complete that as soon as possible. But some members or some friends might say that we have some relatively passive recreational facilities, but then will there be cycling tracks and so on? Well, as you can see from the layout plan, if along the entire waterfront, if we do have cycling tracks along the entire track, then that could also be converted into a cycling track. So we hope that that will form part and parcel of the Kai-Tak promenade. But then we are also working on the entire waterfront in the territory. So this is a relatively simple project, and therefore I hope that members will support it so that we can go to the PWSC as soon as possible and then to the FC. All right, any question from members? For those who would like to ask questions, please raise your hands. Elvin Young, Tanya Chan, Edward Yu. Anyone else? Yes, Lang Yu Chong too. All right. So 5 minutes each. First, Elvin Young. Thank you, Chairman. I'm also looking at what the Bureau Director said, that I'd like to make further inquiry about the cycling track. Well, the Bureau Director said that at present, well, if you look at the layout plan provided by the ASD, well, let me put it this way, it doesn't show a cycling track per se, but then according to the Bureau Director, did he mean that in future where needs be, well, the layout plan can then be converted so that parts of it can be turned into a cycling track? Is that interpretation correct? Bureau Director, correct. Because we are also aware of the fact that members are very concerned about this. That's why we have specifically highlighted that for the orange part in the layout plan, well, it's not exactly close to the waterfront, so the orange part there can be converted into a cycling track in the future. Well, on this I'd like to know a bit further, Chairman. Because, well, for the government land, well, in enclosure 1 on the top left-hand corner, so it's an AVO plan. Okay, so for the orange part that can be converted into a cycling track, how can that be connected with the entire Kai-Tak site? I'd like to know a bit more. So I believe that what the Bureau Director said was not just about converting this part of the open space adjacent to the HKCH into a cycling track. It has to be connected with other parts. So I'd like to know, if you look at the layout plan here, well, the HKCH is exactly on the opposite side of the Kai-Tak site. So how can it be connected to the Kai-Tak site in the future? So can you tell us a bit more? Well, in the future, well, from Charcoal Lane, that will be extended all the way to Kowloon City. As for the details, maybe I'll defer to the ASD, which can give you a more detailed reply.
Mrs. Falk, or Mrs. Yu. The CDD actually on the Kai-Tak site carry out a feasibility study on the cycling network there years ago, and it studied about the design and the alignment, including the cycling track. And back then, on the overall plan, we actually reserved space. Then, for after the entire network is finished by a department, we can actually accommodate its final plan. So you can see that on the waterfront area, facing Kai-Tak, there's a track, a road for people to enjoy themselves for leisurely strolls. And the orange areas, where we have the overall plan completed, it will be connected to a continuous cycling track. The Harbourfront Commission is planning for the entire Kai-Tak project, including a 15 km cycling track. So this Waterfront promenade adjacent to Hong Kong Children's Hospital, is that included in that planning? Okay, let me continue. Well, it's part of the overall network. The CEDD, its overall study is still underway. So at appropriate time, I believe that they will provide the overall idea to the Waterfront Commission. So my understanding is that the Waterfront Commission will confirm the entire cycling track, and that will be made part of the area adjacent to the Hong Kong Children's Hospital. Yes, that will be part of the overall network. But for the overall plan, because it's not yet been completed, so I can't give you all the details yet. So, Chairman, in other words, if you want to find out more about where the administration will bring in the idea of bikes and people sharing the waterfront area, is that what we can discuss now, or do we have to wait till the overall plan is completed? The CEDD actually is having its feasibility study, and the study also includes what you mentioned. So I think when it provides us with the information, I'm sure we'll know the details then. So, Chairman, which means that we have to wait till the CEDD has further information before we can discuss whether they can have bikes and pedestrians using the same waterfront, right? Yes, because on the idea of sharing the area, it has commissioned a consultant to carry out an in-depth study. So it would be better till we've got the entire plan ready. Okay, next one, Tanya Chan. Well, we are now given the conceptual plans. I can see there's some green zones with the trees on the plan. But how about the planting plan? And as for toilets and other ancillary facilities, in the paper, it talks about the baby room and other needed facilities. But judging from the plan, how about vending machines? You don't have to have snack kiosks, but how about drinks vending machines? Will they be available there? Or would there be 24-hour convenience store within the hospital? That is, if people go to the area for leisure, if needed, they can, find the snacks and drinks they want. And because this site is so close to the Hong Kong Children's Hospital, I'm also concerned about safety. Would it be easy for people to enter the hospital? How about security inside the hospital? Would that be assured? How do you assess the risk? Thank you, Chairman. Mrs. Yu, please. As for the greenery, I think we will have greening or vertical greening on the site, either on the rooftops or elsewhere appropriate segments. We will have not less than 20% of greenery coverage. It should be more than 20% indeed, because we're talking about a leisure area. We'll also select plants that are easier to tend to, and also local species to create a better atmosphere. As for toilets, we will, based on what's required in the law, to provide appropriate male and female toilets, even though in the law there's no mandatory requirement for the number of toilets, but we will follow the requirements of the LCSD. Security. Well, vending machines, yes, and security. I'll ask the LCSD to supplement. Thank you, Chairman. On the vending machines, so far, we haven't planned for any of them, but if necessary, it's not difficult to install them. We can just install the facilities needed, and that will be done. I'm sure we can add that to the site. And also, in our plan, there will be drinking machines. And that will allow people to bring their own bottles to get water from the machine. So we hope that that will arrange or encourage people to be more environmental friendly and so they can bring their own bottles. Well, Jim, I was about to ask that. Would you have the drinking machines? How about environmental friendly facilities like you would have lampposts, right? Will they be powered by solar panels? I can see, as you know, the solar panels in these days have dropped much in price and the effects have been largely enhanced. So is there any possibility for Kai-Tak or other portions of the site to have lampposts that are powered by solar panels? I mean, there's many of such facilities overseas. So do you think you can do that? Particularly for planting, I would say that it's best to have more tree shades, trying to use shades from trees more than rather artificial shelters, not just for the purpose of greenery, but also you can help lower the temperatures. And also in the Tsim Sha Tsui East Waterfront Promenade, it's got stepped, it's got stepped sitting that can allow people to admire the sea view. Mrs. Yu. Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, environmental friendly facilities, we will follow the Development Bureau's technical circulars. As for lighting facilities, besides display panels, we will have solar panel powered lighting facilities, because the Development Bureau's policy is to get us to provide them as much as we can. Next one, Hon KWONG Chun-yu. Thank you, Chairman. Maybe the paper is just too simple. So I wonder if you can give us more details. For example, a plan with the measurements. And also the perspective. The trees are quite sparsely scattered. So have you got any plans to, how many trees and what types of trees to be planted there? And the facilities, would you have a checklist of them so that we know what you're going to put there? And also, on the waterfront area, how about the design there? Seems like you have vertical, the waterfront, breakwater. And will you also reserve some facilities for water sports? For such a long breakwater, it seems that you rely on high fences to shield it. So was there any chance for you to change the design? Because that sort of high fences is a bit of a pity. Thank you, Chairman. For the design, we will follow the LCSD's usage of the site to design the fence for the breakwater. Right now, we are to provide the public with an area where they can easily enjoy the sea view. So we are using what's in the Kwun Tong Promenade, a transparent breakwater. If there are other activities staged there, we can alter the design then to accommodate that. There are steps now that lead from one side of the breakwater all the way to the sea. Before, there used to be landing facilities, but in the future, it will be as the base for a road for repair. So the existing road conditions indeed can, depending on their use, be designed accordingly. So maybe you can consider, in your design to reserve spaces for water sports. So that will be more convenient for the public, and you won't have to alter the design later on at a late stage. And also, how about eco-friendly coast? Would you, or waterfront? Would you consider that? So would you sort of like use rocks to create a more eco-friendly waterfront? Yes, I really agree with Mr. Yu that not just on this waterfront, but for the entire waterfront of Hong indeed is very appropriate for water sports or activities. So we're planning to, near Kai Tak, that is opposite the Waterfront promenade, there will be a temporary site to be used by water sports associations, to be used as a temporary site for water activity center. Well, you have the site, but you still need to have people to promote the activities. So now we've got a site ready. We need to have the people being involved. As for whether we can, in the nearby area, to promote a water-friendly culture, that's our vision. So, Mr. Yu, I hope that you can give us more opinions later on. But the site itself, we are discussing with the association on how to make good use of the site. Yes, traditionally, you have fixed sport, like fixed sport for people to go up the shore, go on the shore. But you said that you want to have a more flexible facilities for going onshore and offshore. So maybe in your design, you can accommodate for 3 or 2 sports for people to get on and off ferries or boats. That will encourage the water culture more. Thank you. Next one, Leung Yu Chung. I think the paper is really quite simple. I don't know if I missed anything. How long is the waterfront promenade? I know the size, but how about its length? 400 meters, 330 meters. So it's so short. Well, the promenade is very long, but this is just part of it. Chairman, you know that I always jog along the Tsim Sha Tsui East promenade. So from my experience, I found many elderly people there, even in the section in Whampoa, Tsim Sha Tsui East, in the morning they swim there, in the sea there. Whether it's warm or cold, they swim there in the sea. And they can take care of themselves. You don't have to worry or have any life-saving personnel there. But you need to provide them with the steps for them to get into the water. Now in Tsim Sha Tsui East, they have to climb down to the sea by holding on to the railings. So you need to consider, bringing or creating steps for them to get into the water to make it convenient, more convenient for them. And also, even the promenade is so short, you said it's connected to other sections. But how about joggers? The joggers would like that.
Because many joggers like to jog along the Tsim Sha Tsui East waterfront, and if it can be connected, then many people will definitely be jogging there. So can you look into that so that they can also be connected or converted into a jogging trail? So it's like what is happening in Tsim Sha Tsui East. If there is a jogging path connected to the waterfront promenade, that would be the best. And also, thirdly, I can see that there are many elders who like to stroll or walk there. And if you can also have some fitness facilities for the elderly, then that would also good, because other than walking or strolling, they can also do some fitness exercise there using those facilities and equipment. So if you can install those facilities, that would be nice. I can't see that on the layout plan right now. So if at all possible, can you also add that in? Is it possible to have some fitness equipment there? And also along the waterfront, you don't really need to put up any specific facilities. All you need to do is not to put up barriers to prevent people from fishing. Because in some areas, you put up some notices warning people not to fish there. So if you can accommodate people who like to do leisure fishing there, then that would also be nice. So you don't really need to put up any specific facilities for them. What Mr. Leung refers to fishing, well, yes, that is allowed. We do encourage people to get close to the water, and also whether or not there can be some steps to enable people to swim there. I do have some reservation there because that area might not be suitable for swimming. All right, so I'm not entirely sure if that's suitable. Well, theoretically, Tsim Sha Tsui East is also not suitable because in Wong Po Garden, they also have a swimming pool near the Fisherman's Wharf. People will just jump into the water. Well, many people just get into the water there. So you don't really need to have a very nice stairs of steps. So all you need to do is to put up some stairs or steps so that people can find it easier to get into and get up from the water. Well, in Tsim Sha Tsui East, many people do swim there, in particular the elders, because they like to swim in the sea rather than in the swimming pool. So that's what they prefer. Well, LCSD, have you checked whether or not it's safe for people to swim there? Thank you, Chairman. Well, we haven't really checked whether it's safe to swim there, but overall speaking, near Kai Tak, relevant departments are also monitoring the water quality there, because in that particular area, water quality is really not so good as to be safe for swimming. Well, it's the same for Wong Po Garden. If you don't mind, I can also take you there because I often jog there. I can see that there are many people swimming there, even in winter. Well, they would do some morning swimming at 5 or 6 in the morning. Well, I think the difference is whether or not we should encourage or not encourage them. Because once you put up those facilities, it is tantamount to encouraging them to swim there. Well, you don't have to encourage them. All you need to do is to make sure that you're not standing in the way, you're not putting up barriers. Well, for fishing, we do encourage that because all the way from Charcoal Lane to the pier there, we want to have bicycles. We also want people to fish there. And what about fitness equipment for the elders? I'll try to answer that question first. Well, for fitness activities by the elderly, well, that will be provided along the waterfront because what we have considered is that, well, the location is very near the HKCH, the Children's Hospital, and therefore the users would predominantly be children and parents, and therefore in terms of providing facilities, we will provide more children's play facilities. As to elderly fitness, well, there is another location nearby where such equipment is provided. Well, please think about it because for the elders, they can also bring their grandchildren so that the elders can also have fun there. Okay, so the point is clear. Okay, I raised this, and following on what Mr. Leung just said, well, the waters there would be very suitable for water sports because number one, there are no vessels, and also it's relatively calm, and therefore you will have to improve the water quality there. That's the first and foremost task, so that people can swim there. Well, you haven't really done that, and I think you can just do that, and that's not too difficult. And also in this year's policy address, according to my understanding, that's also one of the 26 items costing some $200 million. Well, for the 330-meter long waterfront promenade, is that one of the 26 projects, or is it just part of one of the 26 projects? Well, it's one of the 26 projects, so it's a series of projects, and also along the entire waterfront. Well, in this particular section, I do not see that, well, there are areas suitable for outdoor performances or for outdoor exhibitions. So we don't see that here. So is it that for other parts you do have such planning? And then also, other than the cycling track and also other sports facilities in the overall planning, you will be covering those in the other waterfront promenade sections? LCSD? Well, on this, in the Kai Tak development area, We have different projects because it covers the entire Kowloon City area. We also have the Kai Tak Main Road Park. We have the fitness station and also Tai Chi area and also children's playground and basketball court and so on. So these are the active recreational facilities and as well as some passive recreation facilities, and also under the 5-year plan as spelled out in the policy address. Well, for the To Kwa Wan Hoi Som Park, we have a waterfront promenade, fitness facilities, and so on, and also tennis courts and other facilities. So in different locations, we have to look at it in a holistic manner. Well, in some areas, we provide passive recreation facilities, others active, so that we'll be able to serve different quarters of the community in different areas. So it doesn't mean that in each and every part of it, we will have all the facilities, but then you will have to look at the overall planning. We will be catering for the needs of different age profiles or age groups. But then it's not very close to residential area because well, there is a long segment of industrial buildings in between, because I go there from time to time, and there are many people who drive there and park their cars nearby, and there is also a shortage of parking spaces. So how can you make improvements so that that would also provide easy access or facilitate people trying to go to the waterfront promenade in the future? Well, for parking, the area itself doesn't have any parking spaces available because it's quite elongated and narrow, and therefore there is no parking space available. But then if you go to a nearby shopping center and also for the Pacific Ocean Center, there are also public parking spaces available. Well, that's for parking. But what about public transport? Well, because in the future it's going to be a children's hospital after its commissioning. Will there be easy access for the public to go there as well as the hospital? Well, for the 300+ meter long waterfront promenade, well, what you say is not just to serve the waterfront promenade, it's for the entire Kowloon East, including Kai Tak. It's about the planning and development. I think that's very important. So as you just said, whether or not there would be elderly facilities and so on. Well, if you just look at the 300-meter long waterfront promenade, you probably won't be able to see all that, because we have already set up the Kowloon East or Energizing Kowloon East office. And also, we do have overall planning for the entire Kowloon East, including the Kai Tak area. We have a mega performance venue, if I remember it correctly. So we have many facilities catering for the different needs. So we will make sure that both in terms of public transport and other facilities, we will be able to cater for the different needs within the area. Any further questions? Because I have to estimate the time that will be needed. Next, Hon KWONG. Anyone else? If not, then 5 minutes. Mr. Hon KWONG. Thank you, Chairman. Bureau Director, thank you for mentioning that, because from Cha Ko Ling to Ma Tau Kok, that's part of it. Just last week, I went to the Kwun Tong Waterfront Promenade. It's really a very nice facility when compared to the West Kowloon facility. But then from Cha Ko Ling to Ma Tau Kok, I'd like to know, so when will it be commissioned? Because in the middle of it, according to the latest estimate, the biggest difficulty would be the Kowloon warehouse and also the dangerous goods store. So is there a chance that you can break through that so that the entire waterfront promenade can be connected? Because last time when I went there, it was disconnected. Because for the dangerous warehouse or dangerous goods store, they still have some facilities for taking in waste paper. So do you have plans to connect the entire promenade? And also just last week, I went to the Kwun Tong Waterfront Promenade. Well, the green facilities there are very nice. It's very comfortable and nice to have a stroll there. Well, for phase 1, it's been commissioned 3 or 4 years ago, but then I think we can see that some of the facilities are running down, and it's easy to get tripped over. So are you going to pave tiles or what? Or are you going to use eco timber? Will you be using new materials so that they would not be that's susceptible to wear and tear. And also many residents would like to ride on the bicycle so that they can cycle all the way to the industrial area for work. But then if you look at the area, well, bicycles are banned from entering the area. And I remember there was one occasion when someone tried to bring a bicycle in, and he was asked to leave. So will you be commissioning the cycling track early? And also before the full commissioning, can you enhance the facility so that bicycles can be allowed into the area first? Because from Kwun Tong Pier, you can all the way go to Kowloon Bay. So can that be permitted? So one, about the design, second, about the materials, and number three, about the commissioning of the full cycling track. Well, on connecting the entire waterfront promenade, there are many projects. This is just a section involving some 300 meters. We will have to look at the different projects. So this is part and parcel of the big project, and this is a small project. So we have to look at the sequencing of the projects, and then we will have to go to the PWSC before going to the FC. So we are vetting the different projects, and Kai-Tak, within the Kai-Tak development area, there would be different projects which will be submitted to this panel in series or in sequence. As to whether or not it can be connected with waterfront promenade of Kwun Tong and also the repair and maintenance of the Kwun Tong waterfront promenade, I'll defer to the LCSD and the ASD for further replies. Yes, on the Kwun Tong waterfront promenade, at present, the CEDD is conducting a feasibility study, and they are also looking at the possibility of doing a pilot scheme for bicycles to be used there. Well, it's not yet completed. If we do have such a plan in place, then the next step would be going to the District Council for further consultation and discussion. Well, so two supplementary questions, Chairman. Well, in fact, they've already gone to the District Council because I'm a District Councillor. Well, they have already got plans, but then I'm asking if that can be expedited. And also, you said that if it's feasible, then you would be doing that. So can that be enhanced first? Because part of it is possible, but then there are certain sections which are suitable for pedestrians but not for bicycles. So can you enhance those facilities so that you can commission at least part of it, if not all of it? And also from Chao Koling to Ma Tau Chong, when can that be completed? Because I understand that you're doing that project by project, but then for the two areas that I just mentioned, there are some difficulties because they are under private ownership. So can you ask them to set aside some areas for the promenade to be connected? Yes, Mrs. Falk. As the entire length is very long, and some would be under private ownership, some would be government land, and the conditions and situations might vary. Therefore, we will have to look at the entire development, and then we will do it step by step. We do not have a specific timetable as to when the entire promenade can be connected, and also when certain private lots can be resumed and so on.
So no other members have got questions before I wrap up this item. So members, would you not object to the government submitting this item to PWSC? No objection, right? Okay. So let's move on to the next item. Sorry. Can you ask the administration to provide us with more detailed information in response to Yu Chung-yim's question and also my concern about safety in the Hong Kong Children's Hospital? Okay, thank you. No problem, right? Administration, including Ho Kai-ming's question, we will provide you with supplementary information. Okay, item number 4. Sports ground and open space in Area 16 Tuen Mun pre-construction works. This is a works proposal. So, in accordance with Section 83A of the Rules of Procedures, members, if you have any direct or indirect pecuniary interest, please declare them before we begin. For this item, we have, besides the Secretary, We also have Commissioner for Sports, Mr. Hon KWONG, and also Ms. Linda Law, PAS, and also Ms. Shirley Chung, CEO, LCSD, and also Ms. Rebecca Low, LCSD, ASD's Mrs. Yu, and Mr. Chu. Secretary, please. Thank you, Chairman. In Tuen Mun, we're proposing to build a sports ground. And also, as mentioned by Chairman, it's one of the 26 projects. Actually, the second one to be submitted to members for approval. This sports ground has been much discussed, indeed. Since 2008, it has been discussed in the District Council that only till now that we have the chance to submit it to LegCo. We hope that we can, as soon as possible, finish it. But because of its large scale, because it includes a standard sports ground and also venue for international track and field contests and also soccer matches, we need to do the pre-construction works. We need to carry out some investigation works and also to carry out design. So we hope that you can support this item and that we can get the funding to kick it off. So if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. So members, questions? We have Look Chung Hong, Hon KWONG Yu Chung Yim, Holden Chow, and me who have questions. Look Chung Hong first. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I think each will have 5 minutes. Okay, I won't be long. Of course, I support building this sports ground in Area 16 Tuen Mun. We know that residents there have long asked for this, and for many years, Tuen Mun has only got the Tengshu Keen and other old facilities built in the 1980s. So we do need the proposed sports ground. But first of all, international standards you just mentioned. Do you mean just track and field or soccer match or both? I'm also concerned about if you are talking about international standard for soccer matches, then often soccer pitch design can be contradictory because it may be good for the track and field, but for like in Cheung Kwan O and Suicide One soccer pitch, the track and field looks good and is spacious. But if you want to at the side to see soccer matches, you feel that you are far away from the match, so it really doesn't enhance the audience experience if you have that kind of design. So how would you choose? What's your positioning out there? Commissioner? Thank you, Chairman. The design of the sports ground, well, it's intended to meet the district's needs. We want to stage soccer matches and also track and field contests there. We can have both types of contests there on the site. Whether if we have track and field facilities, then people would feel that the soccer match will be staged farther away from them. Well, we need to do the design carefully. This is not tailor-made for soccer matches, because we also need to stage track and field events there. We also need to explore whether in the track and field facilities, whether it's also possible for us to help to hold high-level track and field events. So we hope we can accommodate both types of sports. Chairman, I was just asking about your international standards. What sort of international standards you refer to? Is it the International Olympic Committee's standard or the Asian Football Association's standard? For track and field, we hope to meet international standards for international track and field events. For soccer, it will be for local matches. But we also see if we are to stage higher level soccer matches there. We need to see what the opportunities are, but we'll first of all look into the needs for track and field events first. I hope that you need to strike a balance there. Track and field, many people will take part in that. You know, people would practice running there, and you will have running contests too. But soccer is an activity that locals enjoy a lot, so you promote soccer a lot too. So I hope that your design can strike a balance to accommodate both. Like Siu Sai Wan Sports Ground, what I found is that all the soccer matches staged there, very few people go there indeed, because the location is quite remote and people have to walk quite a distance from the MTR station. And also, the soccer fans have complained that the audience stand is quite far away from the turf pitch. Even if you use Wan Chai Sports Ground as an example, Wan Chai Sports Ground is main venue for track and field events. So that's not really a major value for people to watch soccer matches. But if you look at the turf there, and if you want to see matches from there, the view is not as distant as that in Chong Kwon and the Siu Sai Wan Sports Ground. Okay, no need for response. Next one, Hon KWONG. Good morning. In the paper, Chairman, in Tuen Mun, the extension of West Rail South will be looked into, and one possible route is one that crosses the bus stop 16B in 16B, where you're going to build the football pitch. Even though you said in 2008 you consulted district council, in 2009 the council approved your plan, but now it's 2017. It's been years since then, and the district council has advocated and south extension of West Rail. In this year's policy address, it lends support to that idea. So now, with the idea for the soccer pitch, what sort of impact will the MTR extension have on the pitch, and also what kind of coordination would you have with them? And also last year in April, MTRC also did a preliminary plan to have a line that would cross this area too. What do you think? I think we have communicated with the Transport and Housing Bureau. In terms of railway development, there wouldn't be any clashes with our plan for our soccer pitch. Any follow-up question, Mr. Ho? No. Next one, Yu Chung Yim. I don't know whether the secretary has noticed I'm staging an exhibition on revitalization of river channels, and I'm exactly using this plan where there'll be wetlands being used for urban facilities. So that means that you're going to veto my plan. But you are talking about pre-construction works, investigation works. You have no idea how big the soccer pitch might be. So there could be still room for other considerations. You can recall that in Tuen Mun there's a 1 billion allocation for revitalization of River Channel, and only 100 million has been used. That means that the project came to a halt. So there should be still money left, since this site in question is near the River Channel. So there could be still room for you to improve the quality of Tuen Mun River. So I would suggest that since we are carrying out the investigation works, maybe you can bring in some design concept for revitalizing the river. It won't be a new concept anyway, because in the last term of government, you allocated 1 billion already. Only 100 million has been used to build a bridge. So there's still money left. So would you consider that, Secretary? For this sports ground, as members know, this is something that Tuen Mun residents very much want to have. So this plan is fixed. It will definitely be built. But you can find from a paper that there will be a sports ground plus open space to be created. And it will be area near the sports ground, of course, in terms of open space. So Mr. Yu is talking about revitalization of the river channel and also the wetlands. But keeping the wetlands or revitalizing them will be much more difficult. But there could be elements that could be incorporated into the open space. Now we're at a design stage. We'll see whether our colleagues can accommodate that. Maybe Mr. Yu can give us more opinions. As long as you don't as long as there are no conflicts with our existing plan, that should be okay. I don't think they are contradictory. There shouldn't be any conflicts because the site is right next to the water. So you can try to make the area of the soccer pitch near the river, preserve some, organize some wetland-related activities there, and provide more greenery so that people can enjoy activities near the river. Like what we said last time. Last time we talked about breakwater, and now you have the river brick. If you can create a eco-friendly, water-friendly environment or design, then I'm sure there wouldn't be any conflicts with the soccer pitch. I hope you would consider my ideas. Well, we'll seek the experts' opinions and look into it further. But in principle, there shouldn't be any conflicts, because we agree with the sports ground and you all feel that the water-friendly culture is worthy of support. It's just a matter of how we can do that and whether it's technically feasible. We will see. We'll look into it. No follow-up questions? Okay, Hon Chao. Thank you, Chairman. I very much welcome the Home Affairs Bureau's plan to build a new sports ground in Tuen Mun. It's a very good project. My questions are, in the paper, says that there will be a turf soccer pitch. I like rugby myself, so is there any chance for the turf soccer pitch to be used for multiple purposes? Like, for example, we can have rugby events, rugby contacts, or training there. My understanding is there are multi-purpose soccer pitches around, so people can play just not soccer but rugby there and have training there. So I wonder whether the proposed pitch can also be multi-purpose, have multi activities being held there. Commissioner, this turf soccer pitch will be mainly for soccer matches, but in terms of rugby training, it should be okay. But for actual rugby matches, we need to look at whether the size is right. So if it's feasible for rugby training, then that would be good, because we do hope that there can be more venues for people to take part in rugby events. Okay, well, now it's my turn. For such venues, of course, it's very important to the sports sector and to the community. It also has a special meaning, so very much support this plan. And we should construct it as soon as possible. I just want to ask about the financial aspect. Now you're only asking for funding for pre-construction works, but what about the total amount needed for the entire project? Don't talk, well, it's one of the 26 projects.
Yeah.
So for this particular project, out of the 26, how much would it cost? So how much percentage is it going to take up from the $200 million? And also it's going to be a standard soccer pitch meeting the community needs. But then is it possible for us to use it for international competition and so on? So it has to do with the standard of the facility. The paper is silent on this. So can you tell us more about this? So what is the positioning of this facility? So in future, what kind of international contests can be held there? And the third question is, if you were to hold international contests there, then they will also need to have warm-up areas. So will that be accommodated within the sports ground or outside the sports ground? So 3 questions altogether. So Sports Commissioner, please. Well, as I just said, well, for the local track and field contest is not a problem. We would also like to hold some international contests, and therefore for the warming up tracks, we will also be looking into that in this project. So other than the main field, we may have to have a separate warming up track. So that would be done in this project. As to the cost for this project, well, we have to do some initial design before we can come up with the detailed cost estimate. That's why we are not in a position to disclose the details of the cost breakdown, because for the $200 million you might only be able to do a small number of the projects. I'm concerned that $200 million might not be enough for all the 26 projects. Well, Chairman, your worry is well justified, and of course you can also support us in getting more funding to do more. But then we came up with this estimate based on past experience. But then to the latter part of the 5-year, as to how much will be left for the $200 million. And also, on top of that, members are also making different suggestions for further facilities to be included in the different projects. Well, we're not sure, because we're talking about the next 5 years, and every year the budget will also show this particular item and how much is needed and how much will be spent, because I'm very worried about whether or not the $200 million will be enough. Okay, any further questions? Next we have Tanya Chen, and then Luk Chong-wo asking for the second time, and Fernando Cheung would also be asking questions. Okay, so for those asking in the first round, 5 minutes, and then in the second round we may not be able to give you 5 minutes. Tanya Chen, I'm still concerned about the total cost, because when I look at the information, when I compare that with Cheung Kwan-o Sports Ground, because it's very close to this site. Well, for Cheung Kwan-o is 3,500 plus 1,500. Well, 3,500 will be covered, and 1,500 not covered. But then the size of the entire site is smaller. Well, Cheung Kwan-o is 5.9 hectares, and this one is 6.2. And Cheung Kwan-o was built some 10 years ago, and I'm sure the cost would be somewhat higher. And also on Kai-Tak, you also have a very similar design, or even on a larger scale. So, Chairman, I share your concern. That's about the warming up area, because last time when you came to explain to us, you attach a lot of importance to the ancillary turf. So you will also have to pay attention to the design of that. And the biggest difference from the Cheung Kwan-o facility is that, well, for the Cheung Kwan-o site, it's 7 aside, and now it's 11 aside. All right, if it's 11 aside here, then I think they are both very similar. So in terms of the operation, will that be handed over to the LCSD, or would it be done in a separate or different way? Would that be a public-private partnership project? But then I don't think this one is very attractive to the private sector. All right, in simple terms, for the Cheung Kwan-o facility is also 11 aside, and this one is also a natural turf standard 11 aside football pitch. And as I said, we would be looking at a separate warm-up track. And also for the overall management, it will be done by the LCSD. Well, in the paper, you also talk about several residential developments. Well, in Siu Sai Wan, there was a problem because when there's sports events, then the noise might be quite a nuisance to the nearby residential development. You said that you would be conducting a small study, but then apparently you haven't really looked into the noise impact. So what's your assessment? Well, during nighttime, well, most of the football games would be held in the evening, but then for the other sports events, most of them will be held in the daytime. So will you be making reference to other built sports facilities, so that you would be making reference to that without the need to conduct a separate noise impact assessment? Yes, Commissioner. For this particular facility when compared to Siu Sai Wan is farther away from residential developments. For the details, I'll defer to the ASD. All right, thank you. Well, for the advanced works, or for the preliminary works, we will be conducting some preliminary EIA, and under the preliminary EIA, that would include a noise impact assessment to the nearby residential developments. Okay, I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Chairman. Fernando Jiang. Thank you, Chairman. Of course, we support the proposal to build a sports ground in Area 16 Tuen Mun. I understand that this was proposed some 10 years ago, so some time has been wasted, and it's very important to the Tuen Mun residents because they only have one sports ground, and many secondary and primary schools will have to go to Yuen Long for their sports events. I think that's undesirable. And also for the site choice, we believe that is very good because we have swimming pools nearby and dogs parks nearby. Is very good. And also in the sports ground, you also have some children's playground facilities, and that would also be acutely needed, because for some of the existing sports ground and playground, they don't have such facilities. So we do give this our full support, and I hope that this can be implemented as soon as possible and be commissioned early, so that would benefit the residents there. But then what we are also concerned is there are bus termini and also parking areas or parking lots nearby. Will they have to be closed upon the commissioning of this? Because if it affects the bus terminus and also the parking facilities, you have to make sure that there would be replacement, or else there would be problems with the traffic in the area. So do you have any plans for that? LCSD, Ms. Law. Thank you, Chairman. Well, in fact, within the area, we are making use of the short-term tenancy awarded by the Lands Department to those operators, and therefore in terms of these when they were granted those sites, they were fully aware of that, and when the government needs the site back, they would have to hand it back to the government. And if they need to get help from the government to identify other suitable sites, the government will help them. Then we are concerned because there is some bus depot and also other car parks. So if they have to be relocated, then there would be illegal parking and traffic congestions nearby. And if the bus depot has to be reprovisioned, then where would the buses go? So you are saying that they will have to resolve their own problems. Well, you will have to help. How can you just leave everything to their wits? Well, different departments will try to coordinate to see what can be done about it. Indeed, it's going to be a problem, but then there is still some time to go, and they are already informed well ahead of the plan that if the land has to be resumed, then they will have to hand it back. But then I'll inform the relevant department so that there can be better coordination. All right, please do. Okay, next, second round. Anyone else who would like to ask in the first round? Next, Mr. Luk Chong Hong, 3 minutes, please. Thank you, Chairman. I missed out a part. Fernando Jiang also touched on it. It's about the car park. Because in the new term of government, they are also making a suggestion that is multi-use of one particular site. I hope that this can be applied in the Tuen Mun site, so that in the basement of the football pitch, you can build a large car park, because the area is short of parking spaces. Because I think the proposal has been unanimously supported by everybody in the district, but then they are also concerned about the shortage of parking spaces. And also for the other 26 LCSD projects, when will they be submitted to this council for vetting? Because in many districts, many of these projects have been delayed for years, including the one that I belong to in Tin Shui Wai North, a swimming pool, and also for the Yuen Long playgrounds redevelopment. Well, that has been delayed for years. So is it because of the shortage of staff of the LCSD or what? So can you tell us why? Are there any other projects that can be submitted to this council, and what is the timetable of them being tabled before this council? Well, for the Chief Executive's policy address, it proposes that in the next 5 years in the 18 districts, some 26 LCSD facilities will be built. So, Mr. Lok, what you suggested would be submitted to this council as soon as possible. That's why, since the announcement of the policy address in January, we have already submitted 2, and we will be submitting others in due course. So the plan is that within the next 5 years, we'll be able to implement all the 26 projects. It's not just the 26 projects, as Mr. Lok might be concerned about other projects outside of the 26. So there are projects that have been under discussion for years, and within the next 5 years, we'll be conducting feasibility studies for them. And then we will then go to the relevant district council and then this council for consultation. We hope that members will support them too. Anything else? Yes, I'd like to ask a question. So is there any shortage of manpower in the LCSD? How come it has taken so long? Because local representatives or residents find it mind-boggling, because building a sports ground is not controversial at all. And when you come to this council, often the time we would support that. How come building a swimming pool, building a sports ground can easily take up to 10 years? All right. And then well, for a particular country, it would just take them 3 years for a aircraft carrier to be built and commissioned. How come it can take you 10 years for a sports ground to be built? Is it because of a shortage of manpower in the LCSD? Bureau Director, well, there are a basket of factors, but then we are now in a position for many of these to be implemented, and we hope that members will support them. Any further questions? If not, then can I ask members for your view? That is, do you support that this item be submitted to the FC for scrutiny? All right, agreed. So that will be submitted to the PwC, not yet to the FC. Okay. Next item, development of new intelligent sports and recreation services booking and information system. Let's invite the administration team to join us. We have the Bureau Director, the Commissioner, and also Mr. Hoi Fong Man, Head of the LCSD for Information Technology. So, Bureau Director, can you walk us through the paper? Yes, Chairman. This is a long-awaited project. So it's about the booking system for LCSD sports and recreation facilities. Well, the old system has been in use for some 20 years, and of course some patch-up work has been done over the years. Still, it is far from being able to meet the latest development of IT and needs, and in order to facilitate better use of the system and better access by the public, we are trying to update that and replace it with a new system so that in the future, in terms of booking of facilities by the public, they will find it easier and more convenient, and also at the venues we will be able to make better use of the facilities, and it will cost us about $500 million. We hope that members will support it. Okay, it's time for questions and answers. We do have sufficient time for that. So before we start that, I'd also like to draw members' attention to this, because the item will be submitted to the FC, and if there is any direct or indirect pecuniary interest, please do disclose the nature of such interest before you speak.
So 4 members have got questions. Any others? Tanya Chen, Roy Kwong, Chung Fong, and myself. 4 of us. So time-wise, we have adequate time indeed. So question and answer, 5 minutes. Tanya Chen first. Thank you, Chairman. Well, the system has been used for 20 years, and it's now time for an upgrade, I'm sure. And I do hope that, in your paper you mentioned about in B, point B, you said that you want to provide a fairer and effective distribution of public resources, and also to avoid abuse of venues, and also to prevent touting activities. And you will also add the function of first come first serve lottery system, allocation system. I don't quite get it. So anyway, I think that to combat touting activities is very important anyway. Commissioner and the Secretary may know by 2016 there were reports that, I don't know whether that's because of something happening internally. The 9 minutes after booking was made, information of the booker was changed. So I don't know whether the new system can really plug any loophole. Can you explain a bit? I know that the new system, you can allow people to make bookings and open a user account. Can you actually have a demonstration of how fast, how efficient the system can be? Can you possibly show us an interface? Or even on the mobile phone, if you want to be a smart city and you want to encourage everyone to exercise, then why don't you encourage people to book on their smartphone? Because when this proposal is put before the PWSC, you might want to provide some sort of demonstration so we know better how the system works. So basically, I'm just want to know as well, how can you avoid, what sort of monitoring system do you have to avoid, people abusing the system? Well, right now, the existing system, the security measures will be continued, but for the new system, there will be penalties for booking. People who've booked and failed to show up in the appointed time, there will be penalties. And also, right now, there are venues which are in much demand, like soccer pitches, turf soccer pitch. Demand is great for them. And if you just use a first-come, first-serve system, then you will see people lining up outside offices very early in the morning. So there's no chance that some people might have touting activities. So now the new system, we will let people book 10 days in advance, and for the popular venues like soccer pitches or badminton courts in sports center, we will allow for people to make booking earlier, and there will be a deadline, and at a designated time we will have a computer lottery to decide who will be assigned to the venue. And for the venues that remain unbooked, then people can either book on a first come first serve basis on the mobile app, on the phone, or at the counter, or use the other machines or platforms to book those left behind venues. So because we are using computer lotteries, everyone has a chance. And also for scenarios where other venues, but we don't have to have computer lottery for all venues, like for those which are not really in much demand, and there's no need for lottery. Okay, Chairman, in 2016 May, Ming Pao reported that the venues were actually abused, and the SSD carried out a investigation into the case. It is reported as the main news, and there's much coverage on it. So what happened to that, to your investigation? Yes, we didn't establish the facts for what was reported, about internal manipulating or manipulating the system. We also have our own monitoring system to avoid such possible scenarios. Roy Kwong, next. Well, I feel that indeed it's like what we find is not like what the administration seems to suggest to us, that things are so fine, because last year some media used undercovers to get a venue through contacting a person engaged in touting activities. Isn't that what happened? No, it didn't happen. So you mean the reports were false? We haven't discovered any staff with ethical problems. We haven't discovered any such stuff. Okay, so it's not that your system is perfect, right? Otherwise, there won't be any need to upgrade it. But a 20-year system to be upgraded, I've seen no problem with that. But the point is whether it's really, it really needs $500 million in terms of budget. And so you need to show us some interface, and also what's the major issue is the touting. Because there's some amateur football matches have to try to get venues from people doing the touting, because they can't book the venue even for their training. So they have to try to find a venue from the people doing touting activities. So how can you stamp that? So you need to use administrative measures. Software may help, but I don't think the AI is of such a level that you can stop people from touting. So you want to resort to lottery, but now you're going to have $5 million to upgrade the system, but there could be another kind of rigging later on. There can be another kind of touting to try to capitalize on the system to provide values for people in need. So the profits from touting are really high. Say $770 fee may be sold at 3 times its value. So as like what we said, the reports last year, there were reporters last year who posed as buyers and contacted the people doing the touting. And so how come names can be changed in the system in just a matter of minutes? But you said that won't be the case. They can't change names in just a matter of minutes. But I'm worried about the situation. So my question is, the $500 million budget, how are you going to use it? Can you give us more details? You wouldn't be just using the $500 million on changing the interface, right? Or installing the lottery system, right? And also, what company would you commission to do it? And how can you stamp touting activities? I mean, there are people there who are using public resources to, make profits. So how are you gonna combat it and stop it? Because your AI cannot detect that. And also, how about the timetable? Is it 2023? You will have the system in place, up and running. But if the touting activities, there could be new tactics. Then what will happen? What can you do, in between now and 2023 administration? Well, why that we need to use $500 million? $500 million, I think the budget is for the breakdown is in Annex 2. We've provided you with a breakdown. Basically, it's a whole new system. So you're asking whether we can show you the interface, but we haven't really done the design yet. So we have to get the money first and then have the tendering exercise and then hire the contractor to carry out the design. The design stage, we will also incorporate users' views. But how are you going to stop touting? As for touting, I think we address it through the system. For very popular venues, we will bring in a lottery arrangement. That is, everyone will be eligible for it. And once lots are drawn, then, of course, we need to also we plan to incorporate another system that if people, after they have their lots drawn and they don't show up in time to pay the fee, then we need to strike a balance between the actual operations and public views, and we will come up with some penalties. Say once you've booked a venue, if you don't come to get it, we will impose a penalty, because this is a kind of abuse. Hon KWONG next. Chairman, developing a new IT or intelligent sports and recreation services system can help provide better convenience to the public. Of course, I support it. But for the new system, after it's in use, the enrollment for sports and recreation services will all be done online, and that will save manpower. So the manpower saved, what will happen to them? Would you lay them off? I'm concerned about that. And also for the new system, some elderly people may not be used to it and they may not know how to operate it. So would you have other measures to help older people so as to help them book the facilities? Mrs. Falk? On Ms. Jones' questions. As for health for the elderly, we have considered that because the venues will be used by different people, therefore in our design we will try to make it accessible by people of different ages, and there will be various channels for them. So in launching the system, we will carry out actually a gradual approach. That is, at the venues, we will first of all install smart service stations, and we'll also get ambassadors on the spot to teach elderly people how to use the system or book online. And if they want to be a patron, we'll teach them to become a patron or member. And also, before we install the smart service stations, we will continue with counter services until by 2021, when all personal services and enhanced personal services will be, by 2021, will be launched, personalized services. And by 2023, then group bookings or system integrations will be done then. And that would have nothing to do with individuals. So by 2021, basically, people who book venues through LLS will be able to transition to the new system by then. As for people saved or manpower saved, well, we don't have any plans for staff layoff, because we will gradually assign the extra staff to do other work, like they may be assigned to help members of the public make bookings, or ultimately, when everything is smooth in operation, then only when the manpower is not needed would we actually assign them to other positions. Chairman, in the paper is mentioned that through LLS, there are 5.8 million bookings of leisure activities and 0.6 million enrollments to programs. So under the new system, what about, well, how are you going to protect public information, that's information of the people making the booking? So how can you ensure that the bookers' information will not be leaked?
Thank you, Chairman, and for the question. Well, for system security and also network security and personal privacy protection, we attach a lot of importance to that. That's why in the early design stage, we will try to step up the security measures in order to minimize security risks. And one of the possible measures is to add firewall and virus protection systems and so on. And then for personal privacy data, in terms of storage and transmission, it has to be encrypted. So that's our requirement. And also on a regular basis, we would also conduct a risk assessment so that personal data would not be at risk when people access our system. Any further follow-up? No? Next is my personal question. Well, at present, the LCSD's mechanism or booking system has been subject to a lot of criticisms. I've been receiving a lot of complaints. Well, these would include that sports groups and also the touting groups would be competing for the venues, or they would just coordinate to see how they can monopolize the venues by paying a higher fee. All right, you said that you had investigated into that, and there's no problem. All right, the fact that you couldn't find anything doesn't mean that there are no problems. But then, to me, I think it's either the problem with the system, or there are staff members who choose to violate or break the rules, and therefore we will have to improve the system. But then, will the new system be effective in stamping out these problems? All right, we'll be spending $500 million to renew the system, and if still we are not able to eliminate touting, then it's not going to solve the problem. All right, you said that you'll be introducing a balloting system. If you allow people to transfer the names, then it will still create a black market, so to speak. So how can you eliminate that so that people will not be casually transferring the venues by changing their names? All right, well, this is a digital age, and people can just use their mobile devices, and then they can make payments and book the venues and so on. In many countries and places, they have got much more advanced systems than ours. So how can you upgrade the system so that people will be able to make inquiries as to which venues are now vacant and have empty slots? So if people are able to book a venue very frequently, then will their priority be lowered so that other people will get a better chance to book those systems? And can you conduct random checks to see if they're abusing the system? For example, if we can have 50 or 100 elders from an elderly homes who can just put in their names, and then they can just get the venues without being required to be present at the venue, then you will have to do something to prevent such abuses, because people can just make use of these elders' identity to book the venues. So you will have to conduct random checks. And also for the payment system, can you adopt a more simple system so that once the booking is confirmed, then payment has to be made, or else they'll abuse the system by just booking the venue, and then subsequently they can pass it on or transfer it to another person. So I think that would make better utilization of the venues and fairer use of the facilities. So can you consider that, Commissioner? Well, I'll be making 2 points in my brief reply. Well, just now you talk about complaints. Well, I think it's mainly about whether or not LCSD staff have been involved in the touting business by using some internal resources. Well, after investigation, we found that no LCSC staff was involved. I didn't say that there was no touting at all. And as the member, or as the representative just said, there are internal regulations as to how the staff are allowed to use this computer system. And then for the measures that were mentioned, they will try to target those who are trying to monopolize these venues. They might be booking the venues all the time, and as a result they have different ways of touting the venues to other people. So we'll try to increase the difficulty. But then if you are suggesting that we should eliminate that altogether, well, that would mean that there might be heightened difficulty in touting. But then can we eliminate it altogether? We will have to wait and see. And Chairman, you just said that is it possible to make use of the elders in the elderly homes or aged homes to book the venues, and then subsequently the venues might be used by other people instead of the person doing the booking? Well, we do require the person doing the booking to be present or to sign in before the venue is handed over to the particular person. All right, how many more members would like to ask questions? Nathan Law, Hui Chi Fong, Wu Chi Wai, anyone else? Helena Wong? Well, okay, so 4 minutes, including both questions and answers. Nathan Law, will we have a second round? It depends. Nathan Law, 4 minutes. Well, I'd like to ask about certain clashes in the venues. Well, with the new computer system, would that reduce such situations, because certain venues might have been booked by some NSAs and some groups, but then subsequently it might be booked by some individuals, and as a result there might be double booking. So will the new computer system be able to resolve that? Mrs. Fogg? Well, under the new system, members of the public can search the venues. It will be a lot more convenient than the existing system. At least it will be more custom-made and also personalized. And once a venue is available, that would be shown. Well, for some NSAs can do advanced booking, but then the LCSD might be doing some menu booking, and as a result there might be double booking by some individuals, and as a result there might be two different parties booking the same venue at the same time. So will the new system be able to resolve that? Well, by 2023, whether it's individuals or groups, everything will be input into the computer system, so the problem that you refer to will not happen, because just now you talk about some man-made error. So someone might have booked the venue through the system, and then subsequently there might be some menu error. And of course, internally, our staff will have to be more careful. We will have to remind them to avoid this from happening. Well, I suspect that this will still happen after 2023. And of course, if everything is digitized, things will improve. And second is about booking a venue or hiring a venue, as the commissioner just said. All right. Well, after you change the name, the person will have to be there to sign in. It will only increase the cost. All right, they might just ask the elder to sign in, and then they may have to pay them $100 or $200. All right, I've been using the football court or football pitch once or twice a week, and then in some premier locations, you will have to pay some $900 or even $1,000 for an hour's use. So on the first come first serve basis, and also for the signing in system, all right, you will just increase the cost, and then they will have all the justifications to increase the charge. So I have two questions for this. Well, for the first come first serve, and also for the balloting system to be introduced when it applies to football pitch, what time slots will this be applicable, and also what other means can you adopt to prevent touting activities? Mrs. Fogg? On the balloting system, well, what time slots will use this balloting system according to our intention? Because for football, well, it's a very popular sport, and therefore the utilization rate is high throughout the day. So during peak hours, and then for the premium locations or venues, that will apply. Is it that from Monday to Friday it is after 6 p.m. and then for weekends it's after 10 or what? Well, in some cases the utilization rate is as high as 90%. So even for badminton during peak hours, they are also very popular. That's why for these we will use the balloting system, and of course we will consult the stakeholders. If there are suggestions that even for other pitches they are also very popular during non-peak hours, then we will resort to balloting. Well, I have a simple question. So other than that, do you have a multi-pronged approach in targeting or in stamping out touting activities? All right, Mr. Hui, I'm also a regular user of the LLS, and I hope that the new system can do one thing. That is, you can provide the information on real time, because in the past it's not very effective, because often a time people who have done the booking might not show up, and as a result there might be very late vacant spots. So even if you try to pick up those venues or facilities, you won't be able to do it even if you make use of the online system. So you will have to go to another building, and then you will have to register it manually, and then you will have to go back to the venue, and you will have to ask someone to sign in, and a lot of time will be wasted, and therefore you won't be able to pick up the venues that are not used. And then for the touting activities, if they are so rampant, in particular, if certain venues are booked by some groups throughout the day, then individuals will not be able to use them. And if you can provide a real-time online system where people can search which venue is now available, then that would be a lot easier. So have you planned for that under the new system, Mrs. Fogg? Well, the new system will enable that, because for people who have made the booking, or for venues that have not been taken up, that will be shown in the system, so that you'll be able to pick up the unused facilities. Well, at present, people will just sign in by using their ID card to pitch against the machine. So in the future, that will be a lot easier and more convenient. So you also have smart stations at the venues. So would that be installed at all the venues? And also under the new system, all the venues can be booked online, so that the system will also show the real-time data with regard to the vacancy or utilization of certain facilities. Well, at present, for the free-to-use facilities, for example, soccer pitches, they are not included under the present system. But then in the future, for the more popular ones, they will be included. But then for people who just walk in and play football, well, they don't have to book it, and then those will not be put under the new system. So whenever fees are charged, the facilities will be included in the new system, right? Yes. All the fee charging facilities will be included in the new system. Okay. Next, Wu Chi-wei. Thank you, Chairman. Every time when we encounter such intelligent systems, upgrading or improvement or enhancement, well, to me, I'm not comfortable at all. It's not about whether or not I should pay for the upgrading of the system. But apparently, we are not giving top priority to the updating of a system to meet user requirements. So what are we trying to achieve? What are our goals? And then we'll measure what we are going to do against our targets. And also for the contract operators, are they able to meet our targets? Well, in the paper, you just talk about how you can improve the system. But then what about the overall purpose? So are we going to provide real-time data? It's not very clear. And also in the work procedures, you will have to prepare the tender documents, and then you will vet the bids, and then you will do a system analysis. Well, that would take up some 1/3 of the total time frame, because the whole project will only be completed in 2023. Is that a bit too extended? Because you said that the system, well, the current system has been in use since the municipal council days, and you try to meet the hardware requirements, and then in terms of the software, it's been updated. So it takes you 6 years to replace the existing system. Is that a reasonable timetable? I really don't know. Maybe we have to get some IT experts to tell us. Alright, today we are thinking about this system, to the time when it can be fully implemented, it will take 6 years. The whole world will have changed. So have we ever thought about this?
I asked on an occasion, how does the Innovation Technology Bureau help the government shorten the time frame so that we have the IT we need? So personally, I feel that I'm not trying to challenge whether we should approve it or not, but the whole workflow itself makes me uncomfortable. How come? How come that the objective of the system is unclear, user requirements are unclear, and yet you are going to invite tenders, and then you will come back and use almost 3 years to do system analysis? Is that reasonable? Do you think that's reasonable time frame? Secretary? Well, I'm very concerned about these issues. Firstly, about the objective. In my introduction, I said that our goal is very clear, including tackling current problems and also addressing lingering issues like touting. We do hope to make it hard for people to engage in those activities, and also right now there are lots of public demands now, including having real-time information. So we're going to provide that. And thirdly, our venues may not be rented out or used to the greatest efficiency. If you have good flow of information, and if you don't know when what is happening to the venues, then we will not be able to make good use of them. So the other issue is time frame. Yes, from design to application for funding, tendering, completion is the entire process needed, but we can see whether we can shorten the whole time frame. But Mr. Wu just mentioned, IT keeps changing. So when we do the design today, by 6 years later, maybe there'll be new revolutions in IT. So I've told my colleagues, we must constantly keep ourselves up to date with changes in IT and try to apply them to meet our goal. So I hope that Mr. Wu can keep reminding us. Helena Wong next. Chairman, IT system, of course, being upgraded is inevitable. In the paper, it seems that you really can't do a good job in convincing us why. Whether the LLS has bugs or not, what flaws it has. How come you can't, through upgrading this system itself, instead of having a whole new system? This new system in the paper will cost $500 million. It's not a small sum, and it will take 5 years. And then there will also be the non-recurrent staff expenditure, annual expenditure of $17 million. That's too expensive. Just then Mr. Wu Chi-wai asked, how come it will take so long, and 5 years later some new system may become outdated. So you should have a system that can be constantly upgraded instead of having a new one, and to get $500 million to get a new one. So I think it seems like a big waste to me. I don't think it's worth spending so much money on it. The new system in question is, for example, intended to avoid abuse of venues and combat touting, and also to make booking by ballots, and also help people submit applications, online applications. But why can't you do the same thing? Through expanding the LLS, do you have to develop a new system? LCSD, please. Mrs. Falk. On the current system, over the past 20 years, we have kept, for new services launched, we have indeed during the area of the Urban Council, Regional Council, we've kept upgrading the system, but it's come to a stage where it's been in use for more than 20 years. If we keep adding loads to the system, there are difficulties. By 2021, hardware, softwares, they will actually expire. The lifespan will expire. And we'll need to get tens of millions of dollars to renew their functions anyway. But that would not be a permanent solution because, after all, there's a limit to the lifespan. So why do we need a new system? To combat touting, that's one purpose. But the most important is, in the current system, say if the members of the public want to use mobile app or computer to get a service, they can't do it under the current system. So if we want to enhance users' experience, like mentioned in the paper, then if we want to extend our services more, even like a search function, if you have used LS, you will see that it's not easy for you to do a search of venue. You have to go through so many steps, and you only have 3 chances. And then if the 3 chances are not available, then you still have to start it all over again. But have you asked the Innovation and Technology Bureau or the IT sector whether it requires $500 million to install the search or enhance the search function? I don't think you need $500 million for that. You just said that some hardwares are up for renewal. I understand that, but you don't need $500 million to replace the hardware. Nothing stays permanently. Assistant Director, because a few years later, things will become outdated. So is it that you will come back for $500 million every 5 years? So you should upgrade the current system. If the hardware has expired, and you just replace it, and you can add RAMs to it. You don't get $500 million. Any other questions from any other members? If not, I have a question myself. An opinion. Indeed, from this paper, we can't see how you're going to do it. I know you're going to upgrade the system. I support upgrading, but as mentioned by members, they have concerns, particularly about the software. If you are to invite tenders, the user specs, what will they be? What will be the main specs? Can you let us know more? So as to address our concerns, that our concerns will become part of your user specs during the tendering process. So any other members have questions and comments? If not, then Charles Mock, well, he's not here today, but he has given us a written submission, written question. So I will transfer it to the administration for your reference. If possible, please answer it. If not, then Melinda Wong, Chairman, just now heard from members that, as you remember, Innovation and Technology Bureau, they came to us for $500 million to help government departments upgrade their IT systems or to increase efficiency of their work. In food and environmental hygiene aspect, we asked the department concerned where they sought help from the Bureau, because there's $500 million allocated to help government departments to upgrade or develop IT systems for efficiency purpose. So departments can apply for it. So, Secretary, would you talk to Nick and see whether they've allocated any amount for you to see whether you can get support from them to upgrade your system instead of asking us for a separate sum? I'll ask the same question for the FEHD, because you can't just forget about this sum allocated for government departments and come to us for the same amount. Secretary, yes, I think Mrs. Wong's point is reasonable, but I can tell you that I did liaise with the Bureau already. As for your concern, You can imagine that this system actually dates back to the days of the regional and urban councils. It's been in use for 20 years. You can imagine whether they can still be used for much longer. A few years later, there will be no backup. So why is it that our colleagues, I asked this question, why in the past, why didn't we upgrade it earlier? But our colleagues are being prudent financially. They're just trying to add to the functions, and that's why they've used it for 20 years. But I think that it's now time for it to be changed. Mrs. Wong, you said whether it's worth the money asked for. Several million people use our venues, several million people every year. So we are providing convenience for them to help them book venues on their mobile phones. In Shenzhen, that's what's being done in Shenzhen or other nearby cities. So why can't Hong Kong do that? Many people have asked the same question. So if Mrs. Wong, you are saying that why let's not upgrade this. I'm not saying we should not upgrade the system. I'm just asking why you need to spend $500 million. Do you need $500 million to develop the system? If it still remains so outdated, IT-wise, the public would not be satisfied. So I hope that members can support this proposal. As for the amount of money involved, our colleagues actually came up with this estimate. This is a cautious estimate. We are willing at PWSC, when you have proposals there at the PWSC meetings, or if you want us to give you a demonstration, we can do that. But the estimate is arrived at. We have our IT director here, and we have discussed it with our IT staff. So when the time comes for bidding, well, if it comes out that the quotation is $300 million, of course that's fine. But I think that $500 million is an estimate, and it's worth spending. I hope you'll support it. Okay. If there are no further questions, let me ask members: would you support this proposal? And you support us that it be submitted to PWSC. But I hope that by then the administration will provide more information. FC, not PWSC. FC will go directly to FC, not PWSC. Okay, we'll go directly to FC. Okay, members support it. All right. Okay, so now is the last item, AOB. I haven't received any information for AOB, so meeting adjourned. Thank you.